Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to create your own HTML5 video hero banner for your website using HTML, tiny bit of CSS and a tiny bit of JavaScript. And then I'm going to show you how to make it fully responsive and compress your video so that the size of your video is reasonably small for web use. So let's get started. This is what we're going to create today. This is a full screen HTML5 video background website. And as you can see, it has a couple of layers. The first layer is obviously the video, which is behind. Then we have a bit of a shadow, which darkens the video slightly. We then have a texture, which we're putting on top of the video to kind of help it. So in case the quality of the video isn't that high, it still looks quite good. And then we have our caption here. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so I have a blank project opened up in Visual Studio Code, which I use as my coding editor. You can use any other coding editor you'd like, but in my case, I've created a folder called video, and inside of that folder, I'm going to create an index.html file, and I'm also going to create a new folder called CSS and a new folder called JS. If we go into index.html, we want to create the scaffolding for the HTML5 file. So let's just do HTML:5 and hit tab. And in Visual Studio Code, it will automatically create it for you. And then I'm just going to change the title to this of this HTML file to my background video. Now, let's add inside our JavaScript folder or our JS folder, create a file called app.js. And in our CSS folder, let's create a file called style.css. If you go back to index.html and let's include our style sheet in our head. So let's just do link href equals css style.css rel equals style sheet. And then before the closing body tag, you want to include app.js, which is script source, JS, app.js. There we go. Okay. Now, if we go back to our example, you'll notice that this takes up the full screen. So what you would typically do is have one div and stretch that div the full screen. So if we go to our index.html, within our body tags, let's just create a new div and give it an ID of app. And close the div. Sorry, not app, we'll make it hero, that's better. And then in style.css, let's style this ID. So the ID is hero, and let's give it a height of 100 VH. If you don't know what 100 VH is, it is going to stretch the full height of the browser. Then we'll do width is 100%, and we'll give it a background of red for now. Now let's go and have a look and see how this looks in the browser. So as you can see, it does stretch the full screen, but we do have some margin here. And that's because we haven't normalized our website. We're not using Bootstrap or Bulma or anything like that. So the foundation, the Bootstrap framework or foundation automatically does that for us. So we just need to do it because we're doing it from scratch. We need to normalize it ourselves. And what we can do is just go onto Google and do a search for normalize.css. And click into there and just download it, and you'll see all of this CSS here. Just copy it all and go back into your project, which I have just lost for some reason. There we go. In our CSS folder, create a new file, call it normalize.css or whatever you'd like. Paste that CSS in there and save it, and then include normalize before your style.css, just so there's nothing that overrides the styles you've done. Great. Okay, so if we now go and look at the project, if we refresh it, you should see that there's no more margin there. Okay, so we have successfully created a div which stretches the full screen of the website. Now what we want to do is we want to add our video into the div. So within our div that we've created, just do video. And within there, we want to do source. And then we want to obviously point the source to a video file, which we haven't got yet. And we're going to do type video /MP4. Now, if the browser that the person is using when they visit your website does not support this, you can put a message here and I can just make it your browser does not support the video tag. Okay, now there are a couple of settings we want to add into this video so that it starts automatically when someone visits the website. First thing we'll do is we'll just do loop, which means that it's going to loop. The video will just keep replaying every time it finishes. We'll make it muted. Now you need to make it muted, otherwise some phones, and especially Apple devices, they won't play the video automatically if there is sound. So you need to make it muted. You can make it autoplay, which will play straight away. Pretty self-explanatory. And let's make preload equals auto, which means that it will start preloading the video. It might not have to download the whole video for it to start playing. Okay, so that's it for the settings of the video. Now let's go and grab a video. So we'll go into our browser and we'll go to Pexels Video. So this website just gives you free stock videos. Obviously, if you have your own video, you can use it, but just for the purpose of this example, we'll go here and I will click on this one. And you'll see that there are a couple of options. We don't want the original one because that's going to be massive. So let's go to HD and go free download. It will download down here and you can just drag it into your project. So let's just open up our project here. Okay, and I'll drag it from Chrome. Actually, that's not going to work. I'm just going to have to drag it onto my desktop and from my desktop then into my project. Okay, I'm just going to rename it to video.mp4 and we'll go back into index.html and we'll add that to the source. So video.mp4. Okay. Let's go and refresh and see what happens. Okay, well, it comes up, but it's not doing what we want it to do. It's not stretching or anything like that. So how do we make that happen? All right, so the first thing we need to do, go back into our project and go to style.css. And we want to create a new line, which is going to be targeting hero. And within the hero div, the video tag. Then what we'll do is we'll give the video tag a width of 100%. We'll give the height 100%. We'll make it a position of absolute so that it's not relative to the container, if that makes sense. It's just basically going to stretch however large it can go within an absolute position. We'll then do top 0, left 0, and we will also give it a Z index because it is position absolute. We'll give it a Z index of 5. Now you'll see why we need the Z index shortly. Let's go back and refresh. As you can see now the video has kind of stretched, not all the way, but it's stretched a lot. To make it go the full way, we just need to use a handy thing called object fit cover. And that will automatically fit the video to the screen. And as you can see, it's fully responsive as well. So it's very handy to use object fit cover. Now, what we can do now is we need to add the caption on top of this video. So let's go back to index.html and underneath video, let's create a div called, give it a class of caption. And inside there, let's just do an h1 tag and we'll type welcome to my website. And we'll also do an h2 tag and we'll just do this is a subtitle. And let's refresh again and we'll see where our stuff is. And it's actually not there at all. So our text isn't displaying, and that's because the video has a Z index and it's absolute and it's going to be on top of our caption. So let's go into our style.css and do hero.caption and let's target the caption. And we then want to give it a position of relative and a Z index of say 20. So the video was 5, which is basically a layer, and the caption is 20. So that means that the caption will be on top of the video because it has a higher Z index. So let's go back, let's refresh. Cool. All right. So the text is on top of the caption now, but we want to center it. We want to make it look much nicer. And actually we want it to be center of the screen. To do that, we need to go back to our hero, and we need to give our hero a display is flex. So this is Flexbox within CSS. We want to align the items center, which means that the items will be centered to the middle of the screen vertically, and then we want to horizontally center them, which you can do with Flexbox as justify content center. Refresh it again, and now we have our content in the middle. So now we want to target the caption div and center our text in there. So go down here, do text align center, and let's give it a color of white, so that the text can be seen properly. Okay, well, it still can't be seen properly because the video is too light. So to fix that, we should add a bit of an overlay to the video. To do that, we can use something called pseudo CSS. So let's go back, and we're going to add an after statement to the hero banner, and that's going to add a bit of a shadow. So we'll do hero, : after. We will give it a width of 100%. We'll give it a height of 100%. We'll do content 0 as nothing, and that's what you need to put that in when you do a pseudo element. Otherwise, it won't display. You can then do position is absolute. Do top 0, left 0, and we'll give it a background of rgba, which is going to be a transparent color. 0, 0, 0. Which is black, and then 0.5, which means it'll be 50% see-through. Let's refresh and have a look and see what it does. It still doesn't come up, and that's because we haven't given it a Z index. So position absolute, we'll give it a Z index of. Now, if you remember, we did the video of 5, and then we did the caption at 20. So we want the shadow to be between the video and the caption. So let's give it a Z index of 10. And the reason why I don't do, Z index 1, 2, 3 is because just in case we want to slot something in the middle later down the track, we don't have to change all the Z indexes of every div. Let's refresh it, and there we go. We have a bit of a shadow there. You can make it more if you'd like. You can make it 0.9, and that will be almost black if you'd like to. But yeah, that's not really ideal. So let's just do 5. Okay, and then we want to add the texture. So if you remember the example that I showed you at the start of the video, you'll notice it has a bit of a crisscross texture on top of the shadow, but it's still before the caption. So let's add that in. To get a texture, you can visit a website called, let's have a look, transparenttextures.com, and this has heaps of different textures that you can choose from, and in my case I'm going to choose 45-degree fabric dark. So we'll just click on download, and it will download the texture, and then you just want to copy that into your project. So I'll just drag that into my project, and I'll rename it to texture.png. Now, because we've already used the pseudo after, you could do before, you could use the before pseudo element. However, I'm just going to do it in this way. So we'll just go back to our index.html, and we'll add a new div. We'll call it texture. And we'll go back to style.css, and we'll add the CSS for that. So we'll do hero.texture. We'll give it a width of 100%, height of 100%. You need to make it position absolute, so it stretches the full screen. Top 0, so it starts at the top, and left 0, and Z index of, so we need it to be after the shadow, which is a Z index of 10, and between 20, so let's make it 15. And then we want to give it a background URL of texture.png, because our texture.png file is in our main folder. All right, so let's go back to our project, and see what happens. So looking at it, it doesn't actually look like the texture has come up. So I'm just going to inspect the element and see what's going on here. Absolute, top 0, yeah, everything looks okay unless the image didn't load, and it looks like the image hasn't loaded. So let's just go into our project again and see what the actual problem is. So texture.png was, okay, because our CSS is in a subfolder, we need to actually refer it back a folder down to the main folder. So texture.png. All right, so let's refresh it now. And again, it's not coming up. So my bad, it actually is, but it looks quite faint. So what we should probably do is go back to this transparent website and see if we can find something a bit better. And I've used before cross stripes. So there we go, cross stripes. Let's download cross stripes and drag that into our project again. And I'm just going to delete the current one and rename it to texture.png again. And let's see how this looks now. Okay, so that's much better. Now all we need to do is we need to do a bit of media queries to make it work a bit better for mobile devices, and also just style the text a bit better. So let's go back into our style.css and let's firstly edit hero.caption h1, which is this here. And then we can do, say, text transform, uppercase. We'll give it a font size of 2em. Now, the reason why I'm doing 2em is because if we're going to make this mobile friendly, we need to do the default size for mobiles starting first. So it's called mobile first development. We'll then give it a font family of Oswald. Oops. And we'll give it a margin bottom of 0.5 rem. One thing I want to do is go to Google Fonts and get a couple of fonts, and the fonts we're using are going to be Oswald and PT Sans. So I'll just look them up. Oswald's going to be used for the title, so I'll just get a bold, and then PT Sans can be used for the subtitle. And we'll just make that regular. And then we'll grab the embed code, go over to our project into index.html and put that on top of normalize.css. Cool. All right, so let's go to our project now and refresh it. And we should see welcome to my website. Great. And then we just need to do the same for our our hero h2. So hero.caption h2, which is the subtitle. And we'll give it a font weight of 400, font size 1.5 rem, margin 0, and the font family will be PT Sans Serif. Refresh it again. There we go. All right, so that looks good, and when we use it on a smaller device, you'll notice it will still stay the same. It might not show the whole video, but it kind of looks quite good. However, we don't want the text to be this small on a desktop. We want it to be much larger. So let's do a couple of media queries. The first media query we'll do underneath will be at media screen and min width. And let's just make the min width. We'll do Bootstrap media queries. 768 should be like an old iPad, and we will make the hero caption h1 as a font size of, let's just make it 2.5 rem. Okay, so the default is 2, so we're making it slightly larger for a slightly larger screen. And then we'll do on the h2, we'll make it say 1.5 rem. Actually, it is already 1.5. We'll make it 1.75. Cool. All right, so let's go and refresh our screen, and you should see it's a bit bigger here. If we go back to our small version, you should see it's the standard size, but when we make it a bit larger, you'll see it's gotten larger. let's do another media query for something which would be like an iPad Pro, which would be 992. So I'm just copying the media query up here. And what we'll do there is we'll do 3 rem and make this 2 rem. Refresh it. And as you can see now, mobile, small iPad, iPad Pro, and then we'll target desktops. So we'll copy this and go to 1200 pixels as the minimum width, and we'll make that 4 rem and 2.5 rem. Refresh that, and there we go. So now we have our large version. So let's have a look. Small, medium, large, extra large. Cool. All right, so now that's done. Let's try the dreaded Internet Explorer. Now, Internet Explorer is an old browser, but some people still do use it. And as you can see, the video does not stretch the full screen. And why is that? Well, that's because remember when we did the hero and we did that object fit cover? Well, that isn't supported in older versions of Internet Explorer. However, we do have a fix, and that is where the JavaScript comes in. We're going to use something called a polyfill, which is just basically filling in things that aren't supported in Internet Explorer. If you do a Google search for object fit video, JS, you should see something called Tricom B2B, object fit videos. Click into it, and we want to just get the JavaScript file, which will be, let's go to the dist folder and grab this minified JS folder file. So click into it, go to raw, and copy it. And then go into your JS folder, call it object-fit-videos.js, and paste it in. Now what we want to do is we just want to include it into our project. So we'll include it above app.js. So script source equals JS object-fit-videos.js. And then if we go and look at our project now in Internet Explorer, mind you, it's still going to be the same because we need to initiate or initialize the JavaScript. So in our app.js, all we need to do now is just to do object fit videos. So that's going to run the function that is automatically going to replace or make the video larger in Internet Explorer. And then you just need to go into your style.css and go to your hero video. And as you can see, we have object fit cover. And then we need to do the polyfill, which is font family, object fit cover. So the JavaScript will see that and it will automatically make it work. So let's go to Internet Explorer again and refresh. And as you can see, now it works great on Internet Explorer as well. The last thing I want to talk about is video compression. If we go into our folder, our project folder, and look at the video.mp4, you'll see that the video is actually 9 megabytes. Number one, having a 9 megabyte video will mean that whenever someone visits your website, that they are going to be downloading a 9 megabyte file, which is not good for your server and for your bandwidth limits if it's limited. Secondly, it's going to take longer for people to load your website. So you do need to compress your video so that it is smaller. Hopefully it's not going to lose all of the quality, but to keep things quite lean when the website loads, let's reduce the size. The best program to use would be something called HandBrake. So if you go to Google and just type HandBrake video, if you go to the HandBrake website and download HandBrake, you can use it on Windows and Mac, and it is a free program. Once you download HandBrake, just load it onto your computer, and it's going to ask you for a video. So you could just grab video.mp4 and drag it in there. And if you go to your presets, go to web, and then just make it Nitro small. If you make a Discord small or tiny, it's going to be really bad quality. The best quality, you could do 720p, but that might make the video about 5 megabytes. This will make it about 2 megabytes. So let's do that. And let's also change the video to, let's make it called it compressed.mp4. And then just hit start encode. And then what's going to happen is it's going to compress the file and put it into this specific folder. So I'll just go and grab that file now and put it into my project. And as you can see, it's reduced it from 9.6 megs to 2.1. Looking at this video, this is the original video and this is the compressed video. So the quality, it has gone a bit lower, but we do have a texture on our hero banner, so hopefully we won't notice a massive difference. So if we go back to our project and go to our index.html and do compressed.mp4, and let's go back to our project. This is the full version, a 9 megabyte video, and then this is the compressed video. So look, the quality actually, did that work? I'm not sure if that worked properly. Let's just have a look. Compressed.mp4. Let's just look at the code and make sure that it's running that specific video. No, it's not. So yes, that's because I'm using the wrong one. Okay, so this is the compressed video. So the quality has gone down a bit, but it doesn't look that bad because we have that texture. And then this is the original one. So look, if it doesn't bother you about loading times and stuff like that, then by all means stick with the 9 megabyte video. But if you are worried about load times, then maybe compress the video a bit smaller. And if you want to make it even smaller, you could keep it at this quality, but just limit the video to say 5 to 8 seconds. And that brings you to the end of this tutorial. If you have any questions, please post them below. And if this video has brought you any value, please subscribe. I'll really appreciate it. Thank you very much.